Admiral, radar shows that we have liberals approaching at 3 o'clock, and libertarians at 9 o'clock, and conservatives at 6 o'clock. They're coming from every angle, every viewpoint. Oh, it's Political Radar with your hosts, Rhonda and Elliot.
Hey, all you political junkies. Welcome to Political Radar, the best unscripted, uncensored political talk you will hear all day, right?
Yes.
Yes, I concur.
Well, we'll see. I will be the judge of that, Randy.
Okay.
We're on to episode number 9.
Yeah, unbelievable. Thanks for everybody listening. I'm Elliot.
I'm Rhonda, and we're here with Alderman Randy Scannell. Scannell?
Scannell rhymes with channel.
Rhymes with channel.
And he's on so many goddamn podcasts that it's like the whole podcast world of Green Bay is the Scannell channel now.
Well,
This was his master plan all along.
It was. It's my first step to taking over.
It's because he's so hip. He's
World domination.
He's the hippest alderperson, however you want to say that we have, I think.
I mean, the bar's not set that high.
Yeah.
This is true.
Doesn't take much.
So we got lots of issues. Should we jump in?
I think we should.
You want to start with we'll go easy on you. We'll start with the code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
As some of you may know, there has been some recent activity that involves the code of conduct, which is something that you helped implement last year, which is kind of ironic, Randy. So talk to us about that. What is the code of conduct within the city of Green Bay government?
Well, the code of conduct really is, I went for the code of conduct for 2 reasons. I pushed the code of conduct for 2 reasons. There were codes of conduct that I was concerned about that had been going on for quite some time, long before I'd been on the council.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, inappropriate comments, flicking boogers.
Wow.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. So when I first got on to the council, I talked to our president about these issues. I was concerned from the get-go. And there was a lot done behind the scenes to create a better ambiance, get people under control. And that worked some, but it didn't work entirely. And so I felt that the code of conduct would do 2 things. One, it would create a path, because I had heard many people come to me with complaints, and they didn't want to come before the council. So, because that's the way it was set up before. You could always bring something against an alder. I mean, that's always been the case.
So the public could come forward.
The public could, but they would have to come right to council. I created a path where they would go to the ethics committee, and the ethics committee would kind of be a sounding board. They do a fact-finding trial, and then they would say, well, this is serious enough to pass on to council action, or this is kind of a frivolous matter, we don't think this is worth the council's time. Of course, a citizen could still then go to the council, but if they didn't want to go to the council to begin with, it's a way. It was actually, I know a lot of alders were concerned that it's going to be the city at the alders were going to be dealing with all kinds of petty complaints. But if going through the ethics committee was actually supposed to weed out all those petty complaints.
And
Isn't that interesting?
And it sets a standard.
It's such a standard.
I think standards are important. I mean, the whole thing that I went through with on Broadway, it's because there was no standard, and so they just hurled all sorts of things at me that basically seemed to amount to a restraining order. So I appreciate having some standards in place in terms of conduct, period.
Right.
But then a process for dealing with potential conduct issues, and they're not always actual issues. There could be phantom complaints, right?
Right. Exactly.
So there are guidelines in place so that you actually aren't just able to come in and do whatever you want.
Right. And those guidelines were we picked some from the state statutes, and we picked some from our own ordinances, and then we also looked around at what some other people have done and what other alders said they were concerned about, and added some things there. But that list of conduct is just a body to give you an idea, to set a standard. It's not all inclusive. So you shouldn't look at it like, if this isn't in here, then it's not necessarily something worth not doing or doing,
But there's a process for reviewing
But there's a process for it, yeah.
So flash forward to today, where we have now the ethics committee is going to take up 2 complaints.
Well, they're taking up 1 complaint.
They're not taking up 2?
There's a process for filing a complaint, and the complaint against me has not been filed.
It was filed with the council or it was filed with somebody.
It was a communication,
Okay.
but that doesn't make it, no. There's a process for filing. Yeah, he did not file. So
Is he planning on filing? And when we say he, let's talk about who it is. It's Alderman Andy Nicholson.
Yep.
Why don't you explain that actually?
Well, okay. I don't know if I can. I'm not exactly sure why he's filing it or why he's bringing this up.
What's the allegation?
The allegation is that. Let me explain that then. Let me put up the whole thing. Okay. It was Tuesday. We were going to have council. In the morning, I talked to Alder Weary. We talked about Coburn Pool.
Chris Weary, Alderman Chris Weary.
And I have been supportive of the pool. I've had my reservations on the thing but long story short, I've been supportive of the pool. And he asked me if, we were going to start the bid process that night at council. And he asked me if I was on board with that. And I said, well, as far as I can tell, yeah, it seems like, we should go forward with this. And then between that phone call and council, I talked to another alder, I talked to our parks director, and I found out more about Tundra Lodge. And it seemed to me that that was a proposal worth looking at. And since the Coburn Pool wasn't going to be done this summer anyway, I thought if we just paused the bid process to make sure we know what we're bidding on and looked at this, that made sense to me. I didn't really think I was sinking the Coburn Pool because I don't know that Tundra Lodge would have been the way to go. But it was definitely, I think, a viable option and something we should have looked at.
That's really what your whole job is to evaluate options and make decisions.
How dare you use the process, Randy?
I know, silly me. And I was quite shocked, actually, because I thought that seemed logical to me. It didn't seem like it was a big deal, but when I got there early and I was talking to some alders, letting them know what I was going to do, I was pretty surprised at the reaction I got. Everybody was just kind of fed up with the whole thing. They just wanted to go forward and get this done. And when I was talking to Alder Weary about it, I definitely wanted to talk to him because I didn't want to blindside him. Alder Weary and I have always had a very a good relationship. We've always had a good rapport. We served on the same committee. We sit right next to each other. So I didn't want to blindside him. But I guess I should have been more prepared that he would have been pretty disappointed with my stand, though I didn't really think it was a deconstructive stand. I didn't think that this necessarily sunk the pool, but, I guess I wasn't able to.
Did you just pun? I think you did.
Sink the pool.
Yeah, sink the pool. Yeah.
So,
I plunged into that.
There's one pun down.
Well, okay. So, I mean, I think you know where that could potentially be coming from because there's an allegation that the whole Tundra Lodge thing was.
He threw an insult at me that I expected from others, but not from him. Right. And I overreacted.
He accused you of being the mayor's lapdog?
Yeah.
Are you the mayor's lapdog? Let's just clear this up right now. Let's clear this up right now, Randy.
Well, you're
I'm too
a bad
big for a
lapdog.
lapdog.
Don't lapdogs just sit there and get petted?
Yeah. I do not. There are some alders who have this council divided into two groups. Their group, and if you're not in their group, you're in the mayor's group. And I don't play that game. I follow the issue, and I don't care who's with me or against me on any particular issue. And throughout my brief tenure here, I have voted for everyone, including Alder Zima, with projects that he's supported. And I've also voted against things that everybody else has, including the mayor. So I see myself as being independent. It's true that if you looked at my record, I probably, and what the mayor agenda is, I probably fall more in line with it than certainly Alder Zima, who is completely opposite. So I could see how they could say how, I'm just doing the mayor's bidding, but it just happens to be
you share that comment.
We share that comment. What am I going to do? I mean, frankly, I think if Alder Zima spent more time coming up with things instead of just fighting the mayor,
that's a whole nother episode, though.
Might
that's an
be
entirely
more,
different episode.
Because he's the one who wanted to put $1.5 million into the housing development. And I fully supported that. In fact, we just ended up putting him some more just at the last council. So there's lots of things that.
But this issue is very tense, and there's a lot of players. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of energy involved in it. So the tensions are running high.
Yep.
So
Or back to the pool.
So take us, right. But let's not talk about the pool per se. Let's talk about the code of conduct and where you're sitting with this right now. So what happened when, obviously there was a comment made about you being the mayor's lapdog. You didn't agree with that, obviously. And then let's move on. What happened?
Yeah, well, I told him, I wouldn't treat you this way. And I tapped his chest with my finger. Yeah. Actually, I pointed at myself, I think, first. I said, I wouldn't treat you this way. And for those of you who can't see, I'm pointing at myself, and then I'm pointing at the air, which would be Alder Weary's chest.
I'm his proxy.
Yeah, you're his proxy, yeah. And I hope I didn't knock you over. And then I said, I dropped the F-bomb, fuck you, and walked away.
And this was before council?
This was before council.
This was on the council floor?
On the council floor, though, yes, but before council. And then, and this is a part that hasn't really come out much, but is in the communication, is I went and got a water, came back, I was pretty much calmed down by then, and I hadn't had to talk to Alder Nicholson about what I wanted to do, so I started talking to him, and he said, oh yeah, Tom Duane's saying that's all coming from the mayor, you're doing the mayor's work. So then the meeting came to order, the mayor gavelled, and so as I'm going back to my seat, I'm pointing at Tom saying, that's bullshit. This is my idea. Again, I'm pointing at him and pointing at myself. But again, I'm nowhere near Tom. Or pretty much,
So you were on fire.
So that is also part of the complaint that I did that. But that was actually goaded by Alder Nicholson. And afterwards, I talked to Tom, and he said he never said that. So either Tom's lying or Alder Nicholson is just trying to stir up trouble, which is unfortunate. And I should have still not have played that game, but what can I say?
So now Alderman Nicholson has brought forward a complaint about you.
He put in a communication to the council, but that's not the process for filing a complaint to the ethics committee.
Well,
he has to actually put in detail what exactly
happened. And isn't that surprising? The man who opens his packet of information 5 minutes before a meeting, I've witnessed this many times, has no idea how to file a complaint.
No. Yeah. So,
well, okay, and while I appreciate process should be simple. So, I mean, maybe.
Well, the process is you need to have details.
Yeah.
I mean, his communication is no.
You're accusing somebody of something. You should have
right. So
details.
It should be in detail and filed to the legal department.
But details come when you actually look at your information that's given to you every week, right? But that's typically what you get. I mean, you're going to get details because you actually have the information.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not what he's interested in. So,
yeah.
So here's a complaint that's kind of dead in the water to some degree.
Okay, so what I had read was that there was an F-bomb involved. Did that happen?
Yes.
Okay.
There was definitely an F-bomb.
Okay, was it a loud F-bomb or was it a silent F-bomb?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't think people maybe right in the immediate area might have heard it, but I mean, I wasn't whispering.
This was you directed at Chris Weary, though.
Yes.
Okay. So unless the complaint comes from the person that was impacted,
see, that's another thing.
So this is the problem that I had with the allegations against me.
Uh-huh.
How come other people, the appropriate people aren't saying anything? So if I'm in your face and you deserve it. That's entirely different than me randomly coming in and going off on you about nothing.
Mm.
I mean, unless there's like physical violence, but tapping somebody on the chest, I don't think is anything. So,
hey, are you underestimating the power of the finger?
not evidently, I have misunderstood a lot of things about the way things are supposed to work.
So they're accusing you of being the mayor's lapdog, doing the bidding for the mayor. Well, right. Alderman Nicholson is doing Chris Weary's bidding. Hello?
Yeah.
So how is that okay?
It's okay because it's their group, I guess. I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speculate on them. They do what they do, and I do what I do.
So right now, that's like nothing's happening. It's a dead issue.
It's a dead issue until there's a formal complaint.
So if we give you the chance to, I don't know, apologize, do you feel like you have anything to apologize for?
Yeah, my view on the whole thing is disappointing. It's disappointing. Alder Weary felt backed into insulted me basically, and then it's disappointing. I overreacted, and then it's disappointing. Alder Nicholson is making hay out of nothing. So for me, the whole thing is disappointing, and I have no problem making a private or a public apology for my role in it. I don't see it as a big deal, but it was inappropriate. I crossed a line, and I got no problem taking ownership of that and responding accordingly. Alderman Mary Have and I talked a couple of times, and quite frankly, the funny thing is I completely forgot about the whole thing. By the end of the night,
Right.
And the funny thing is that Friday, I'm with a group of friends and we went to the Transformation House for a fundraiser lunch, and Alder Zima pulled up. Yeah, and he came out with his son, and he was going through the same thing. And I said, "Hi, guy," and he didn't. Only thing he did is he came up to me and says, "You shouldn't have pointed your finger and said fuck you,"
Really?
and walked off. And I thought, and everybody said, "What's that all about?" I had no clue. I could not remember. I did not know what he was talking about. It wasn't until that weekend when I was Facebooking with Alder Weary about
This coming
the pool.
from a guy who told a constituent on the council floor to stick it up your ass.
Yeah.
Well, and then actually coming out and repeating that in public, not in council chambers. Wow.
The poster child
Levels.
Yeah.
of ethics.
All right. So if you don't have anything else to add, I'd like to move on. And I'd like to talk about the stadium thing.
Sure.
The stadium proposal.
Yep. Yep.
So in your view, explain what that's all about, and we can go from there.
Well, the Bullfrogs, Big Top, actually. I think it's too much has been focused as a baseball stadium. Really, it's Big Top Entertainment. They have a baseball team. They would bring in a semi-professional soccer team. They'd bring in other events, bands and so on. Could be used for community events. There was even some talk that perhaps in the winter you could bring in a snow machine and blow snow into the stands, and it could be used as a sledding hill. It'd be a project where really it's only limited by our imagination. I think it's a really good project. The only thing that needs to be worked out is finances. Can we do it financially?
When is that coming back? Because right now the proposal, so people listening know, the proposal that they initially had put forward was taken off the table, and they were asked from council to basically come forward with a new proposal.
Right.
So where is this stand right now?
It's in Big Top's hand. I'm not exactly sure when they're coming for it. I haven't heard anything from them.
Is there a deadline?
I don't think so. I think it's really in their court. When they got it all together, they'll come forward. I think some of the things they were asked to do, I think, was a little bit micromanaging from that committee at that time.
How so?
Well, they were concerned about, the price of hot dogs and stuff. I think, you don't go to a business and tell them how much they have to sell their hot dogs.
Well, okay. So I look at that as a public funds investment. And the reason we typically want to invest public funds into amenities is for people who don't have means to, drive down to Milwaukee to go to a Brewer game, for example, right?
Right.
So, so price should be actually part of the conversation, right?
No, they're a business, and they're not going to price. They want to sell hot dogs.
Yeah.
They're not going to.
But they're also
themselves.
looking for a few $1 million.
But they're
Just a few.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And I look at. I always break the math down this way.
Yeah.
We have a community of 100,000 people. Every $1 million is $10 out of every person's pocket. And of course, it doesn't break down that way, but just to make the numbers easy.
Yep.
So if they're asking for $5 million, $3 million, whatever, that's $30, $50 from me, whether I use it or not. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to do things like that, like for the pool, to up to a certain amount, because it's supposed to be for kids, and especially kids without means. Mm-hmm. So they shouldn't ask for public funds if they don't want to get involved in that conversation, right?
Well, I still think it's micromanaging to a point where
maybe
the council. I still think. They've run a great show where they're at now. If it depend.
Their
If
season
they weren't a
opens
company
today, by
that
the
I
way.
didn't think would do a good job, and it hasn't done a good job, and that I could put some trust into, and they've been great community partners. They've been great with neighborhood associations. You couldn't ask for a better company to deal with. I don't feel like I need to micromanage that company.
Okay.
So
for Adam Simpson's benefit, I just socialistized, right?
Adam Simpson? Why are we bringing him up?
Because he commented, and I also ran into him at the farmer's market last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He lives in the district that I ran in. Yeah. He's an interesting guy. Hi, Adam.
I believe very strongly in the council not being too micromanaging, even with our own staff and everything. I mean, the council does not have the expertise for it.
Okay, that is true. But they also don't.
They
have,
can't. They
also-
can't.
They
It's
also
impossible.
don't. They also don't have the expertise, evidently, for construction projects.
That's constructive.
Well, I mean, if things get over, if the costs overrun all the time, I don't see how why we keep doing.
Can I
these
step in
things.
for a second? So I think the biggest problem here is, and I think this is what I heard campaigning. This is what I've heard from clients that I see all the time recently on this issue. So one of the biggest problems with this is this all could be very true about what they want to do, right? But when you're asking for this much public money and you're doing pretty much all of that in closed session, this is where the issue is. It's like there's
with this.
with the financial piece of it. And I understand it's a private, entity, but somehow I think if they want to sell this to Green Bay, they need to be more transparent. However, they can come up with a way to do that. I think that's in their best interest to do that.
Well, I think anything that happens in closed session is eventually going to come out if it's going to happen. So,
Not necessarily.
oh yeah,
I don't know that makes anybody feel better.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't think so. It hasn't always been that way. I mean, for some degree, they cannot do that, and I understand. But if they want to sell Green Bay, handing them that much money, they need to be able to share more about the proposal, to talk more about how I just think they need someone to sell it better.
Well, I think we're still. I'm thinking that's coming, but
The selling.
the selling.
Okay.
But I don't think until you sell the council, there's nothing to sell. They got steps to go through.
Yeah. So,
And
but I mean, the private process is a little bit troubling because that was one of the criticism that council and the mayor had against on Broadway with the whole Walmart thing. Because it was our fiscal duty on Broadway to discuss things with Walmart privately. We
Right.
had no public obligation even.
Right.
But
Right.
I kind of feel like the city council does have more of a public obligation, don't they?
yes, but there are certain things we can't talk, and we go into closed session. And the bad thing about closed session is you usually go in because you have to, but then the nature of things you cover. If we could just focus.
Why do you have to though? What does
There
that
are
mean?
legal issues. There are, and also with. This is one thing I found out with this. I had never realized the amount of secrecy in business is just it's mind-boggling. I mean,
So they want it to be secret.
and that's everybody. I mean, even Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was 6 months that Walmart was talking on Broadway through a broker, and on Broadway didn't even know who they were talking to. They were talking to a broker.
Well, true. Yeah.
I mean, how secret? 6 months, and then for another 6 months, on Broadway knew they were talking to Walmart, but they wanted it kept secret from the public.
Wow.
I mean, that's a whole year.
Yeah.
And that's not unusual. That's everybody. That's business. That's the way it's just done. It's crazy, but you do business or you don't, and that's the way it is.
But if they're looking for public funds,
And a lot of public funds,
well, I don't know how much funds they're looking for.
quite a bit. So they're not getting $4 million from the stadium tax refund.
don't
So
think
that
so,
was part
no.
of the original proposal. So now that they're not going to have that.
That was what the mayor put forward. They never did. They really haven't put anything.
But it was
forward.
factored into the amount the city would put forward. So right now, as it stands, that is probably more than likely not happening. So how much are they really going to ask for? And do you know that the city of Madison was asked to pay like a fourth of what they're asking Green Bay to pay for the same venue? And that's important to know. And I'm hoping that the council checks into that and actually looks into that. Like, why are we having to spend so much more? What is the difference?
Well, part of the difference, I think, is going to be the difference in time. Things are just cost more. But other than that, I'm waiting to see what they come up with their proposal.
not quadruple though.
Huh? Well, I don't know.
I mean,
Well, look what just happened with the pool, though.
I know
Look how much
and
that's gone up.
and I don't buy that either.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the bids come back as.
So, you have anything else to say about that? Okay.
Not me.
Are we
So,
gonna
so
whine?
in terms of the stadium tax refund, very
Okay.
quickly because
Yep.
we're into our last 5 minutes.
Oh,
I want on that list.
Yeah.
I want my, for lack of a better term, my Shark Tank idea in there.
yep.
I want to put aside, let's say $3 million, and I always break things down to simple numbers. So simple people like me and like some of our city council people can understand it, right? So $3 million, and we spend $300,000 a year, and we give out grants to businesses that bring forward proposals to a panel, not closed session, not in secret, but in public, maybe on video, so that the public can see this and get excited about these businesses, and give them an average of probably 30,000, so somewhere in the range of 25 to 50,000 each. I would like that in that list of proposals.
And I would love to hear what
voting.
Alderman Zima would say about not having control over that.
Well, I think that alder people could be on the panel, but I think there should also be some citizens. I would be happy to join that, and I know a number of business people would. We want businesses to grow. We want jobs to grow. We want our economy to grow.
Yep.
And with those things come fun things like baseball stadiums. But I feel like to a certain extent, investing a lot of public money into a public amenity that a fraction of our population is going to use, and nobody's going to come from outside of the area to see these baseball games. I mean, that's like the swimming pool meets, right? So I feel like it matches the spirit of the economic development of what's supposedly required, much greater than anything else I've heard. But at least I'd like it in the conversation. So can you do that for me?
I will put that in there for you.
Awesome.
And can
want
you
me to-
quickly talk about the wine issue before we wrap? It's
Okay. So last night,
1 minute.
Farmers Market.
Okay.
Wine.
Wait.
Go.
All right. It's a state law that we apparently have been misinterpreting in the past. They made an amendment to it, and now it appears to be clear that we were issuing wine licenses when we shouldn't have been. I believe. I'm waiting for clarification on this. I did get an email on it, but I think I misread it. It was a little legalese, the email. But basically, if we cannot issue wine licenses, it's because of a state law.
So wine. So right now, this is how this came out. So there were people that were at the first Broadway Farmers Market who realized they couldn't buy a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason.
Yeah.
Because the state has our balls again.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's arbitrary because it's obviously there's beer there and not wine.
Yes.
Right.
So
Why
it's
is beer
arbitrary.
okay and wine is not?
I don't know.
And how does that help local wineries at all?
I can't tell you.
Well, and what is the council going to do about the fact that the state is constantly reaching in and grabbing your balls, Randy? What are you going to do about that?
He's going to keep doing that as long as you keep saying that.
The state has authority over the city. I mean, we don't exist without the state. I mean, they wrote our charter, the whole bit. So there's not much we can do except for make it public to everybody, and everybody get on your state reps and make some state changes,
Or are they going to do this with beer as well?
God knows. I mean, but the law says we can issue 2 wine licenses a year per, so it has to be 2 different events. So we have been interpreting it that the farmers market is one event, but then I guess the amendment made it clear that that's not necessarily so. So I don't know. I want more clarification myself. Maybe we can do a little whining and dining around it, and
That's a lot of government, isn't it?
oh yeah, from the state government that is so
Anti-government?
anti-government. Yeah,
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I think you're doing this just so we have you back on.
Sure.
I don't want to see your face again, but
Here.
you're gonna
Yeah.
so
There we go.
He's flipping around
Flipping.
like a monkey.
Yeah. I'm flipping around, not flipping off. Let's get that right.
Right there you go. No,
Yeah.
no more security violations.
Yeah.
So I think that's a wrap. And if you want some notes on this episode, you can go to Political Radar /9 for episode number 9. There's a system there if you haven't caught on by now. PoliticalRadar.com /9. And on there are links to iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and all sorts of ways that you can listen. And you can actually see some still photos on the YouTube also. Did I forget anything else?
No, but we can be reached at, I'm on Twitter at @sitnickow, and you are.
I'm Elliot, ELLIOT on Twitter.
Do you have Twitter, Randy?
Uh,
That's a no.
Randy's
no.
the king of
Yeah,
Facebook.
I had a Twitter, but it was for something else, and I don't even remember what it all is.
But you can be reached on Facebook.
I have, friends of Randy Scannell on Facebook.
Okay.
Yep,
Excellent.
for sure.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of Political Radar, please share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. Even better, submit a show review to iTunes or Stitcher. To listen to other episodes of Political Radar, please visit politicalradar.com/episodes. To support our podcast, please visit our sponsors who make the show possible: You can do this by visiting politicalradar.com/sponsors.
Thanks for listening to Political Radar. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. To stay up to date, visit politicalradar.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.
This episode of Political Radar is brought to you by ReleaseWire. ReleaseWire is a powerful media engagement service connecting businesses to journalists and bloggers. If you need to get the word out about your business, ReleaseWire is an effective and affordable way to reach journalists and bloggers who are truly interested. And we have a special offer for you today. Submit your first on-demand press release with ReleaseWire and save 25% by entering the discount code PoliticalRadar. That's PoliticalRadar. ReleaseWire, from release to results.
Political Radar is a proud member of the Newsmakers Podcast Network, an ever-growing network of podcasts covering a wide range of topics. Check them out at npcn.tv.